Episode 277. Are dictatorships better than democracies?
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And welcome to this beautiful Tuesday's episode of the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Wow, my nicotine lung actually made it throughout the introduction. So you're probably left thinking after listening to the title whether I've gone totally insane. And I hope not. But I'm going to clarify things in just a little bit. Throughout my wild traveling years, I've been to my fair share of dictatorships or autocracies or, whatever you want to call them at the end of the day. A lot of them were insanely interesting. And two of them I wanted to point out, because if you are, exposed to a state system like that or similar, you kind of get the feeling that it actually works. Now, being from Germany, we got this rich history and a proof of concept that it doesn't always have to work. But there are in the modern world, one or the other dictatorships that actually do. And that's where, I want to briefly dive in with you. The reason being that safety or the feeling of safety or feeling safe is a significant contributing factor to happiness. And a lot of times that authoritarian regime that is in place will actually act as a pillar of stability to maintain your wealth or to exorbitantly increase it. But before we get into that, we have to go through our housekeeping very briefly. Item number one, of which is as everyday sharing is caring, meaning that if you share this content, you prevent your friends, family, followers, or whatever Fs there are in your list of contacts from falling victim to the wallet rapists. The wallet rapists being those people that offer similar or the same content that I publish here at a premium price. And once you've spent all your money on them to improve your life and to get from where you are to where you want to be, and you're still not there, they tell you to max out your credit card debt because the next training is going to be the one that's going to change your life. And once you've maxed out your credit cards and you're sitting on a pile of debt and wasted all your money, they're going to pull away in their Bentley or Lambo, give you the middle finger and leave you there to die. And that's something that I intended to prevent with this podcast, and therefore, share this content far and wide to prevent your Fs from falling victim to the wallet rapists. Item number two, views are my own, yada, yada, blah, don't represent blah, blah, blah. Item number three, remodeling and reconstruction mode, slowing down a bit, and therefore, the episodes are going to be still a bit more concise than usual, or than when we started out, but we're getting back to quote-unquote normal mode. Now that we've said that, why did I choose this episode title? Repeatedly, I have discussed with a lot of those who, support freedom, quote-unquote freedom. Some of them have a great misunderstanding of what freedom is, but a lot of them, have, or a lot of the people I've spoken with, now we got it. So a lot of the people I've spoken with defend the position that democracies are the only way to go. Now, the problem with democracies is that if you've been exposed to a working dictatorship, democracies don't seem as agile. They don't seem as dynamic. They don't appear to get anything done in a speed where a dictatorship would just go, okay, we got to get this on the road because we have a significant problem, and we're going to solve this immediately because I said so. The dictator does. That's once you've been exposed to that, it actually makes a lot of sense. For instance, there was I think it was a mosquito plague in Singapore, upon which legislature was dropped, where you weren't allowed to keep open bodies of water in your homes, on your balconies, or whatever, just to get rid of the mosquitoes. Now, in public parks and everything, if I recall correctly, they put a sort of vegetable oil on top of the water so that the mosquitoes couldn't breed anymore, and they got rid of that problem, or at least they contained it, because they were able to react quickly. Looking back at Europe, we've got this nasty bug taking out all of our pine trees everywhere, left, right, and center. And hectares and hectares and hectares of forest have to be cut down, and the wood is largely useless. So a lot of it gets, put into containers, shipped to China or wherever, where they make, what they can of the wood that is left, because you can't use it for construction anymore, obviously, because there was a bug in it, and kind of deteriorated the statical value of the wood. Anyhow, you see that, this problem that we've been having since the mid-90s, at least, if not longer, was procrastinated to a degree where now we, some 30 years later, 25 to 30 years later, we have a significant problem because we have to cut down all of the wood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. While it could have been contained, quite a few decades ago, and our trees would maybe still be alive if we would have gone at it more aggressively. However, with all the bodies having a say that, in whether we should cut it down or whether there are preservatory aspects to consider, and, until these discussions are over, years can pass and things can go to shit, as can be seen right now. However, comparing these two examples I just mentioned, number one, the dictatorship where the dictator says, not dictator, he's president, whatever he's called, says, okay, look, we're going to take care of this problem, and it gets taken care of. And, lots of health aspects are saved, and there's no money for the dengue fever or whatever disease it is that spread at the time, didn't, make the health system collapse and didn't kill a lot of people. While on the other hand, you've got the livelihood of a lot of farmers and forest owners, which are, I don't want to say diminished, but, a dent is put in it because the reaction of a democratic process was much slower. Now, again, I'm not defending dictatorships or autocratic systems because, there are a lot of faults to it. Again, I reference to the early 1930s where, we've had our fair share of a not so good dictator. And things can go south, very, very, very quickly. So it's about the personality of the person in charge that actually seems to make the difference. Because looking at, quasi-authoritarian concepts, be it Singapore, be it Dubai, be it Libya, for instance, with Muammar Gaddafi, those were autocratic systems which worked. And the same is true for, Saudi Arabia, and other monarchies and, de facto authoritarian systems across the globe. And that led me to the point where I was just, in discussions trolling people and saying, look, the dictatorships or the authoritarian systems that are in charge now, all of them are pretty good. That's looking at particularly places like Singapore and Dubai, which are, obviously insanely rich. And wealthy, not only the upper class, but the middle class can, have a significant standard of living. In Dubai, you don't lock your car because nobody would steal it, right? And, you can leave the keys in the ignition and nothing happens. You can, forget your phone on the table in the restaurant, and you're going to come back 2 days later because you found out, and the phone is going to be there in the locked box. And, they're going to ask you questions on what the home screen looks like, and then they're going to give it back to you. So, what's the point? The point is that these people live in a significant amount of wealth and with a very, very, very good medical or health system. You have certain limitations in terms of freedom of speech, but that's what we're forfeiting in the democracies right now as well, with all of these social media platforms taking charge of themselves, of what can be said and what cannot, or, you will be deplatformed, or how the media sheds a light on you if you think differently and outside the box. So I don't want to, I wouldn't let the argument in that, we've got freedom of speech anymore to a significant degree. Yeah, you can still say it without going to jail, but, what's that compared to your, credibility and being slammed in public media outlets for having a certain mindset, which is just not popular at the moment, And that's where, the whole thing, and, getting back to Libya, by the way, some very interesting facts. Libya, was a goat herders nation, 50 years ago, and now had a standard of living higher than that of Russia or Brazil before Gaddafi kind of stepped out of line and was assassinated. And those are interesting things to consider, right? And why am I bringing this up? Again, as I stated at the end of the introduction of this episode, the factors of health, wealth, and happiness are significant to our quality of life. And if they are impaired by whatever factors, then your standard of living just immediately starts to deteriorate. And that's why I wanted to bring this rather provocative title into today's episode and outline that, not everything you're being told is gold is actually gold. There's a lot of fool's gold out there. And you have to investigate whether submitting yourself or living in such an autocratic system may be even a contributing factor to improving your health, wealth, and happiness. So, I think I've covered everything I wanted to say, really. So in that sense, I hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday. And if you've already had your Tuesday, have a good night. And we'll be in touch tomorrow when we're going to talk about something entirely new. See you later, folks. Bye-bye.